Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and I'm finally back making that One Piece content now. I took the couple days off. I was actually expecting to take the week off because of Digimon Nationals, getting back into the swing of things, work and whatnot, but I just really couldn't stay away. So first things first, thank you so much to anyone that I saw at Digimon Nationals. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you. Anyone that came up, shook my hand, I got to meet. It was fantastic. Overall, it was a fantastic event. I didn't do so hot, but that's okay. It's not our main game and not something that I was expecting to do well in. I went in with a good attitude. Just wanted to have a good time, meet some players, and definitely enjoy it. So it definitely did satisfy in that regards. But now moving forward, we're doing One Piece and One Piece alone. So all those break weeks should not happen as much as what happened recently. So with that being said, I know I've been talking a lot about the pre-release event, right? Because that's the next thing that's happening. We're moving on to set 2, and I want you guys to be prepared for set 2. So just to let you guys know, this week I'm making a really quick market watch because I want you guys to be aware of what's going on set 2. And it's one of the biggest reasons I made a video this week. I just think that the market's a little volatile right now, and I want to give you guys the best amount of information possible so you can make some really good decisions, some really good trades moving forward for this weekend. The following week, I'm going to go throughout a series of doing 10-minute testings, similar to what MBT is known for, where I'm going to go grab a deck from OP-02, play a couple games, show you what it's got, and then hopefully you guys can get an idea so what you can prepare for what you want to get when the set finally drops. So without further ado, guys, let's get right into this video. I want to start off by showing you Romance Dawn, and I'm not going to talk about any cards in particular in Romance Dawn. I think that by this time we all kind of know what's going on, right? Anyone that's been watching this channel, watching the market watches, you're kind of aware that Romance Dawn has kind of finally stabilized. The only crazy thing that I noticed is Law is now sort of matching Zoro at this price point, right? So if you look at the leaders just themselves, right, you have right here, you have a good amount of them. You made 7. You're still missing a couple, but we're not going to, talk about King, right? But right here, we can see all the leaders, and we can tell that you have the leaders that are less played, less popular, less meta relevant, if you will, whatever you want to call them. I think these guys are super cool, but I digress. These cards are sitting at a nice 50, 60. Then you have Luffy, being main character. His card looks really interesting. Kind of goofy art, but I like it. It's at $80. And then you have like the more meta leaders sitting at this really high price point. Now, Zoro is expected to do really, really well. If Zoro does poorly, I might see some dip here. Law is expected to do really well. And obviously, with the more that this set gets printed and the reprints coming to fruition within the next couple of weeks, the restocks, we might see these prices go even further down. I think these prices are finally starting to look at a really nice point for the parallels. The regulars, you can probably pick up a playset of anything you need. These Zoros, these Law, and the box toppers are settling at a nice 10-ish to $15, right? So we got everything kind of out of the way. If it's an alt art that is a character card, the highest you will see is probably this Yamato, this Boa, and this Nami, right? Very relevant cards. Yamato, I don't really know why you're that high, but I guess the secret parallel really holds that value because it's going to be more difficult to pull. You have meta-relevant cards like Nami and Boa in the other categories. So we got all of that going on moving forward. So when we look at set 2 and these pre-release prices, let's keep all of this in mind, right? These character cards, the highest you're going to go if you're not one of these main character searcher waifu tax cards, right? I hate using that term, but I guess it's something to keep important or keep in the forefront of our mind. You will probably not cross this $75, $50 mark over time, right? This is finally the end of OP-01. So we got to think about that in terms of OP-02, right? How the longevity of OP-02 and whatnot. So let's start off with the cases. A case of Paramount War or OP-02 is going to be about $2,299, right? So that's not too surprising because at the beginning of OP-01, the case prices were like 1,500, 1,600. So this is kind of high, right? And I think this is a trend moving forward. OP-02, everyone that missed the bag, if you will, in set 1, they're trying to gain it back in set 2. They want to get that momentum. All the people that were like, man, this game has a lot of money to be made, a lot of value to be, grabbed upon or scalped or whatever you want to call it. They want to make it again in set 2. And now this is something that I've seen. This is a fallacy in card games. You see it in Flesh and Blood. You see it in Digimon. You see it in game after card game and after card game. People miss out, they FOMO, they buy into the next set, and they want to make the same money that was there on the first set, and sometimes you just can't make it. And that's really healthy for the players and really bad for the scalpers. So honestly, moving forward, again, keep those things in mind. So I don't think necessarily this set is going to have a crazy amount of overprinting or anything that it's going to revolutionize the game, but it's just not as relevant as the first set. So $2,299 for this case, right? That's a good amount of money. It's a good chunk of change here, and something we got to, continue to think about moving forward. So we have the boxes, let's say 220. Nothing crazy. Again, market value 215. The Japanese box doesn't count, right? So we're at like a 220 to start off with, and this is just pre-release prices, pre-release weekend. These cards can go up or down depending on what is necessary from the community or the demand from the community, right? So 2,200, about 220 a box. That's what we're sitting at for these. For OP-01, remember, on release, 115s, 120s. People, again, trying to match what they expect the game to do. And I think that's going to be really interesting. It's going to make for a really interesting market watches for the next couple of weeks. So let's start out right off the bat off the leaders. And everyone take a deep breath in, deep breath out, right? Because what is this? What are these prices? What are you trying to do? And this is, again, this is the clear example of you missed the bag in set 1, you want to make it in set 2, you are not going to make it in set 2 if the players just don't allow you to, right? So let's look at these. These are all the leader cards, and obviously I'm going to ignore the ones that are right here because you will probably, if you get one box, you basically get all the leaders. So let's ignore these leaders right here. Let's look at the alt-art leaders. So expected to do really, really well is Whitebeard. Fan favorite, I love Whitebeard. If there's one takeaway from this video, I love Whitebeard. He's a pretty darn cool dude. But 180 is pretty high. I do expect Whitebeard, as crazy as it sounds, for that 180 price. Sounds reasonable, right? He's the one that sounds the most reasonable out of the bunch, right? Because Zoro, super high because he was expected to do well in OP-02. Now, Whitebeard, he's expected to do well now. And he, according to the Eastern meta, he does better in the next set. He gets searchers, he gets more support, and it continues to be very, very strong. Actually, very scary strong. So therefore, I can understand this. This is a leader that you can invest in now, and it'll be good now and later. So it can keep that prices. Whitebeard at 180 bucks. I don't want to say to buy it, but I don't think that you would feel bad buying at this price because I can see this going up to 200. That's not a lot of range to go up. This can also easily come down depending on the supply that's available. So there is like about 20 to be made and about 40 to lose. This is one of the more stable ones out of the bunch, right? Because the rest of these I'm going to say that you should just not buy, right? You have Ivankov sitting at 190, actually higher than the market price of Edward Newgate. There's just no justifying this price, right? It's a really cool leader, fan favorite. Hee-haw, I'm ready to hee-haw with you guys, but 180 seems very, very high. He's the new blue leader. You have Dolphy sitting at 120. You have Crocodile, which is, basically free. And then you have this guy sitting at 190 trying to mash Newgate, and I don't think it has the power to do so. It's a very cool deck, very complex. Apparently, we love blue a lot in the Western meta, but we have to be understanding that red is very, very strong, guys. I haven't made a tier list yet, but we will have a tier list coming up relatively soon. I'm going to try to involve Andrew Duvall in it to give you his perspectives on what he thinks is going to be very good. But Ivankov is a really cool leader, something to experiment, but not something I would invest $190. I can definitely see a lot of pain to be made on this card, because only a card that, just like in the first set, he has to be the law to match the Zoro, right? I do think that he is the Zoro. Now we have to find the law, and I don't think Ivankov is that law. And because of that, he'll sit in maybe the $80 range like the Luffy, and that makes a little bit more sense to me, right? So there's $100 off on this price. You have the Garp, had 0 success in the East. Super cool leader. One of my favorite characters. Again, very, very cool. I love this guy as a character from the show. And because of that, he holds a value in my realm. But still, he's not $144 worth. You see all the dual leaders from the first set. They sit 60s to 50s. And I believe this is where he and Sanji will sit over time. The only thing that Sanji and Garp have over those guys, such as Crocodile and Kaido, is that they're more main character-ish than those guys. They're not necessarily villains. They're more on like the lines of like protagonists, and then that might skew these prices just a little bit. In the beginning, Kaido, Crocodile, all these cards were under $30. These cards might be those very, very soon. Kinemon. I think Kinemon is the law to this set, right? And because of that, you have this Zoro, so this guy can sit at 160 pretty easily. This guy can sit at 140 pretty easily, and then everyone else, you're gonna go down, right? Smoker might be the Luffy, or Ivankov might be the Luffy. This is the king, and then these guys are the intermediate, right? That just makes the most sense, right? 50s, 30, 80, 80, and then 160, 140. I think that's as fair as I can be with these cards as humanly possible. But if you look at those fair evaluations based upon the previous set, these numbers just don't add up, and it's just, again, people trying to make that bag. So let's start off with now the secrets, the alt-art secrets. I mean, sure, if you look at Yamato, Yamato's like significantly $100 less than this card. It is not a bad card by any means, but I don't see any purple deck that really wants to run this card right now. Magellan doesn't want to run this, and Kaido doesn't need it to win the game. It is a collector card at best. Could see some playability, no combo power, heavy cost. It's just not there for the competitive gameplay. For collection's sake, the fact that it's an alt art secret rare, I completely understand that, but I just don't see that evaluation in the price. And because of that, I would steer you guys to be very, very careful from the Uda, which surprisingly enough, then you have the Kuzan. So Kuzan is a meta staple for black, and black is really hard to evaluate because it didn't do so great in the East, but because of the combo nature of the deck. You have to have the reducers on the board and the blow-ups from hand, right? You have to have the 1 and the 2. If you have only reducers, your deck isn't doing anything. If you have only the blow-ups, your deck isn't doing anything. And because you have that 1-2 catch from your deck, it is very difficult to evaluate. So we got to be very careful on how we evaluate the Kuzan and the black cards in general. Something that also needs to be said is that if you plan on playing black, you better have the structure deck. If you don't have the structure deck coming into playing black, then you're going to be missing out on a couple key factors. One of the most powerful events that black has available to them, as well as the fact that you might not have the blockers necessary to play your games or the 2K counters. So if you don't already have it pre-ordered, just think about that moving forward, right? Moving forward. I think Kuzan is very, very good, very competitive as opposed to the Uda. So again, prices don't really match. Super cool dude. Like in terms of the show, this guy's such a complex and interesting character that I don't know. Uda, she had a whole movie about her, but definitely doesn't feel like she's as cool as Kuzan. That's a hot take, guys. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Uda and Kuzan, but I'm gonna move forward from that. Let's talk about the Dawn card. We have Shanks. Now, Shanks is a super dope character, fan favorite, depending on who you ask, right? Shanks still, to this point, question mark. It has been 22 years, Shanks. When will you attack somebody, my guy? Like, please, just for one moment. Understood. Getting away off of topic, but Shanks. I've come to end this war. Super cool moment in the show. He comes in the Paramount War, the center of Marineford, and everything just stops. You have this super cool savior energy coming from Shanks. He's a great card in the first set. He's super cool in terms of the Dawn. It's an iconic moment. But once again, remember, one of these in every box. So during pre-release, I expect this to be really high. Once the set finally comes out and supply starts coming out to the masses, I feel like this will come down. Just don't remember that in Romance Dawn, our Dawn card is not even on the first page. Let's go on the second page, sitting at a nice $8-ish, which, if you want your Dawn now, that is what you're paying for. You're paying $10 for expedited. In terms of 10 Dawn, that is $100 expedited charge. It's up to you. If you want to pay it now, you want to pay it later, it's completely understandable. Now let's talk about the box toppers. All the box toppers here are 25, 20, 15, and 15, right? You have, and sorry, another 15. So the box toppers aren't really out of this realm. Boa Hancock hitting that waifu tax really, really hard, man, because when attacking, you draw one card and trash one card from your hand, then trash up to 3 cards from your hand. This card doesn't really see too much play, right? It's still a 7 warlord, so you can add it to the Daffy deck. Is this necessarily a good enough effect in Daffy? Not really. And it's kind of a mandatory effect. It doesn't say you may draw one card and trash one card when attacking. This is not a blocker, so if you're summoning it, you are summoning it for its offensive ability, and then you are going to trash 4 cards from your hand. Well, it says up to, so you could obviously, choose 0. You can draw 1, trash 1, which is not terrible, but if you're going to play Boa, why not play the original Boa that just continuously draws you a card, is a blocker, same stat line. Just don't understand what this card really does. If you want to play it in the Ivankov deck as a form of removing cards from your hand, I don't really see many Ivankov decks play this Boa Hancock. Her being at $25 is very similar to how Alvida was very high in the beginning of Romance Dawn and Perona, but they eventually came down. They're box toppers. The more supply comes out, the less these cards will be. Funnily enough, these cards are a little bit more reasonable, but they're still a little bit higher. If you want to get your Don Quixote Rocinante early, this guy's super duper cool. I love his storyline. His arc is really, really cool. $18 doesn't seem bad. He is one of the blockers for black, and one that you probably will be playing in your deck. Kind of a 4 of, which already makes you want to play this more than the Boa. So it's just, I don't understand this more than anything, but the collector's market is the collector's market, and waifu tax and all these other factors come into cards as opposed to just competitive play and viability. So we have the Tashigi, and the Tashigi being 15 bucks, pretty reasonable. A 3 for 5. This is kind of like the Okiku for black, right? Because it has the negative effect, right? So you're doing the -3 that can combo with your leader if you're playing Z, or if you're playing the structure deck black leader. If you're playing Smoker, it combos in. She has the 3-5 stat line, missing the 1k. Again, it's just so hard to evaluate black, and I don't want to give you guys any misleading information. Moving forward, you have the one of the Jailer Beasts here sitting at $15. This is a really cool card. The Jailer Beast cards are really cool, but again, if you don't have an Impel Down type leader, which is going to be Magellan and Magellan only, you're going to have a bad time, and Magellan is just not Kaido. Kaido still just overpowers Magellan pretty heavily, and is just kind of monopolizing the purple set, right? I even want to go and make sure, right? Z should not be an Impel Down leader. He is from a movie. Yeah, he is Neo Navy, so he doesn't even work with Z, who you can argue is another purple leader. You can play it in blue. You can't even play it in blue purple, in any of the blue purples. So it's literally just Magellan, and I don't think that's good enough to justify this price. And lastly, we have Kazuki Toki, who is another super cool card, and I think it's going to be meta relevant as well. And because of that, she holds another high evaluation. So her mixed in with Rosinante or Doki Hote Rosinante are some of the more competitive of the box toppers, but still these prices are subjective and should go down. So I hope this gives you enough information. Basically, the takeaway from this, guys, because I know I spoke a lot, it's going to be a long video of me just saying none of this is worth it. Save your money. And I hate being that guy. You know, there's a lot of guys in other card games that I can think of that just say never buy pre-release prices, because sometimes pre-release prices are good. You can definitely make some money if you pick the cards up at this time. They do well. You know, you can save some money that way. But unfortunately, this time, I think there's just a lot of risk. There's a lot of people that are upping the prices of cards, and cards from the first. If you look at my first Market Watch video, which I suggest you go ahead and check out, I even said every card is reasonable. I was so beyond surprised that every single card I was looking at, I was like, man, this is a reasonable price. This is a reasonable price. And then I'm coming back to the second set and I see the exact opposite. And that just shows the intrigue that this game has for vendors, outside parties, and they're just trying to make that money, right? They weren't able to make it on the first, they want to make it on the second. Let me tell you, that just doesn't work. And by the time they might try it on the third, they might try it on the fourth, but they're going to lose so much money on the third and fourth set that they'll stop. So I will see, hopefully, these prices stabilizing by the third and fourth set. And I'll come back to the more appropriate pricings by then. Another thing to remember, pre-release is happening this Friday, this Saturday. Good luck to anyone playing in those pre-releases. Be careful making your trades, and make sure that when you pull cards from your pre-release packs, those cards are super questionable in value. I would suggest holding them. There's not going to be any sectional TCG player with them until maybe like a week or two from now. So those prices are really whatever you decide them to be. So be very careful. Be very careful, because you might be trading a card that could be worth $30 for a card that is worthless. So those pre-release stamps, they go a long way. Trust me, from Digimon, I saw, especially this weekend at Digimon Nats, a bunch of cards, just because they had that little stamp, go for 5 times the value of the original. And I don't want you guys to miss out or make that mistake or get taken advantage of by players that do know those things. So make sure that you hold on to those cards for dear life. Make some good decisions. Good luck on your pools. Good luck on your games. And I'm coming back next week with those 10-minute testings to show you guys what we can do in OP-02. This has been your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, signing out. If you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to talk about these topics, just put it down in the comment section. We can talk about it. I'm pretty active down there. And as always, if you guys enjoy the type of content that I'm creating, please hit that subscriber button. It means the world to me. We're about to hit 2,200 subscribers. Don't forget, guys, if we hit 3,000 subscribers, when we hit those 3,000 subscribers, we will be giving away a super pre-release Luffy deck to any of you guys at that time. So please continue to smashing that subscriber button, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Later. Oh boy.